One of the more common grammatical relationships in Greek is the appositional relationship. And apposition is not usually emphasized in first year Greek, so I thought I would give a quick summary of what it's all about. Basically, an appositional relationship is when you have a substantive that is telling you something about another substantive. It's a way to clarify or to look at it a different way. There are two kinds of appositional relationships. The most simple one is called the simple apposition. Clever, huh? And basically what you do is that you take the second substantive and you put it in the same case as the first substantive. And so the second one is said to be in apposition to the first. The word in apposition will come right after the word that it is in apposition with. Easy example is Ephesians 1:1, where he says, Paulus Apostolos. See, Paul, who? Well, he's an apostle of Christ Jesus. So apostolos is an apposition to Paulos. You can, if you want, put like a comma or say i.e. or namely just in your head to help you kind of think through, well, is apostolos in apposition to Paulus? Now, you can have simple apposition in any case. So if Paulus had been in the accusative, then apostolos would also have been in the accusative. That's the simple kind of apposition. But there is another kind of apposition. It's called a genitive of apposition. It's also called an epexegetical genitive. It's in 16.21 in Greek for the rest of us. In this case, the head noun can be in any case, but the word in apposition will always be in the genitive. And the difference is this. The head noun often represents a larger group, perhaps somewhat ambiguous, and the word that's in the genitive, that's in apposition to it, is going to be a smaller group, perhaps a more specific part of that larger group. In other words, it's just not saying i.e., but a genitive of apposition is defining the head noun more closely. Wallace says that, quote, the genitive of apposition typically states a specific example that is a part of the larger category named by the head noun. Now, where we get into some interesting problems is when the head noun is in the genitive, and you have to decide whether this is a simple apposition or a genitive of apposition. A good example is 1 John 1:3. And this is in John's salutation, and he says, and the fellowship, so our fellowship, understood is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. So here you have the head noun is in the genitive, and Jesu Christou is in apposition to huiou. But the question is it simply restating the appositional relationship, or is huiou a larger group and Jesu Christou the smaller, more specific group? Well, in this case, it's probably just a simple apposition. And it's interesting, look at how different people translate it. I don't really like how I did it in mine, where I said, with his Son, Jesus Christ. I like the way the NIV does it better, with his Son, comma, Jesus Christ. And the CSB and the NLT do the same thing. It's a minute little difference, but Son Jesus Christ is not actually what it's saying. It's with his Son, and his Son is Jesus Christ. So I like the comma. I will have to change that. And if you're wondering if this is a simple apposition or a genitive apposition, you would just say, and with his Son, i.e., Jesus Christ. I mean, Son is not the larger category because this is the Son of God, and there's only one Son of God, and it's Jesus Christ. But if you look down at Romans 4:11, you get another example of what clearly has to be a genitive apposition, because Simeon is accusative. And talking about Abraham, and a sign he received of circumcision. Well, what is the relationship of semeion to peritomes? Well, semeion is the larger category because there's lots of different kinds of signs, but he's talking about one specific kind of sign, specifically that of circumcision. It's interesting to see how the different translations handle this. I said he received the sign of circumcision. The NIV changes the order to make the appositional relationship clear, and he received circumcision as a sign. And over in the NLT, it's circumcision was a sign. So the NLT and the NIV are trying to make it clear that the sign is, in fact, the circumcision. So in the case of Romans 4:11, you have a really good example of a genitive of apposition. Head noun is in the accusative. The genitive that's in apposition is telling you a more specific example, a smaller group than the larger group. So just to review, apposition is when you have two substantives where the second one is basically repeating what the first one is to try to clarify it. Paul, who's Paul? He's an apostle. Simple apposition can occur in any case, and the word in apposition has to be in the same case. 1 John 1:3, you have this confusing thing where the head noun is in the genitive, and so you have to decide whether it's a simple apposition or a genitive of apposition. And in this case, Iesu Christou is not further defining the Son, and so it too is in simple apposition. But in Romans 4:11, you have a head noun in the accusative, and the word in the genitive clearly has to be a genitive of apposition, fine-tuning the larger category. So it's not just any sign, but it's a specific sign. It is circumcision, which is the sign.